Shalom to all. Today's daf is Daf Ayin. We are starting Samach Tesomid Beis, 3 lines on from the bottom at the middle of the line. And today's daf is sponsored Lilu Nishmas, Marsh Miriam Sarah, Bas Yaakov Maisha, Hernish Shama Shadav and Aliyah, and Lilu Nishmas, Mars Freidich Hayobela, Bas Yitzchak Tzvi, Hernish Shama Shadav and Aliyah. And the Gemara continues discussing various scenarios of how a person was making or mayfair his wife's or daughter's neder. The Gemara says, by Rabbi asked the following question. Let's say the fellow said, Kayam Lichi Hayoim. Mahu, what's the halacha? All he said was, your neder should be mekoyim today. And what are the two ways of looking at it? Mi'amrina, do we say, command amrla mufar lichi lemachar? It's as if he's telling her that it should be mufar tomorrow. It's mekoyim today, but tomorrow it's mufar. Or perhaps holei amrla. He didn't tell that to her. And since he didn't express, but it's mufar tomorrow, so therefore we would say that it's mekoyim today and tomorrow as well. Now it's important to point out over here, as we said yesterday, that a father or husband only has one day to be made for a neder. So how can we view his statement as if he's saying, and it should be mufar tomorrow? He doesn't have the ability to be made for it tomorrow. And the answer to that is that if it's tomorrow already, he's not able to say the neder that you made yesterday is mufar. But there is a technical possibility for him to say today, the day that the neder was made, tomorrow it should be mufar. And since he's still holding on the day that the neder was made, he's able to issue a statement of hafara that would be chal tomorrow. So again, our question is, when he says that it's mukuyim today, do we view it as if he's saying, but it's mufar tomorrow, or do we not say that? And the Gemara continues, ayin amad alf on the top, imtim slimmer if you want to say halei amar la, he didn't say that to her, and since he didn't say it to her, it's chal today and tomorrow. What about the reverse case? She made a neder, and amar la, all he told her was mufar lichi lemachar, that it's mufar for you tomorrow. Mahu, how do we look at it? Mi'amrina, do we say lemachar lematzi mefer, that he can't be made for the neder tomorrow, because he was mekayim her neder today. Now he wasn't actively mekayim it today, but by the fact he didn't say anything about it today, it's as if he was mekayim it today, and memela he doesn't have the ability to have the hafara bichal tomorrow. Or Dilmar perhaps, given the amar la kayim lichi hayom, since he didn't express the words, it's mukayim for you today, so kika amrla mufar lichi lemachar, when he says it should be mufar for you tomorrow, me hayom ka amar. Really he's saying it should be mufar for you today, and therefore the hafara is chal. So the Gemara continues with this, v'imtim slimer, if you want to say afilu hachi, even so, it's considered mukayim. Given the kaima hayom, since he was mukayim today, again he wasn't verbally mukayim today, he just simply didn't say anything, and therefore we look at it as if it's mukayim, lemachar command isei dami, tomorrow it's as if it's here, and therefore his statement that he wants it to be mufar tomorrow doesn't work. But what about the following? Let's say he said, Kaim lichi shah mahu, it should be mukayim for you just for an hour, meaning just for a short amount of time. Mi'amrina, do we say, Command amrla mufar lichi la'achar shah dami? Is it like he's saying to her that after this hour it should be automatically mufar? Oidilma halay amrla, or perhaps he didn't say that, and memela, it's not only mukayim for an hour, but it's mukayim forever. And intim slimer, if you want to say, halay amrla, but he didn't say that to her, so therefore it's mukayim forever. Mihu amrla mai, let's say he did say it to her. Let's say he said, it's mukayim for you for an hour, and after the hour it's mufar. Mi'amrina, do we say, kimi de kaimai, since he was mukayim it, so he was mukayim it, and he can't do anything about it anymore. Or perhaps kimi de kula yoma bar hakamo bar hafarahu, since he technically has the whole day to be makim or made for the neder, so ki amar mufar lichi lachar shah mahani. When he tells her it should be mufar for you after an hour, so it does work, and therefore it's mukayim for an hour, and it's mufar after that hour. So Gemara attempts to bring a raya, tashma, we have a mishnah. Let's say a woman says, Hareini Nazira, I'm a Nazir. B'shama Baila, and her husband heard, Va'amar, and he said, Va'ani, and I. So ein yachal lahafer, he's not allowed to be made for her neder anymore. Va'amai, why is that so? Nema, why don't we say Va'ani da'amar hu? When he said Va'ani and I, al nafshe dahava nazir, he's just trying to say that he also wants to be a nazir. Aval hareini nazira dila, but in regards to what she said that I'm going to be a nazir, the shah achas kaima, he's only being mekayim for a moment. V'la'achar shah, after that hour, after that first moment, ibay lefer, if he wants, he should be allowed to be made for it. Amai ein yachal lahafer, why should he not be allowed to be made for it? Let's just clarify what we're saying over here. When she says that she's a Nazira, and then he says Va'ani, the only way for him to be a Nazir is if she's a Nazir, because he's being matvis his Naziras to her Naziras, so it has to be that her Naziras is chal, for his Naziras to be chal. So what we're asking is, just because her Naziras is chal, in order for his Naziras to be chal, why don't we say that her Naziras was chal only for a little bit, so that his Naziras could be chal? But the moment his Naziras is chal, why can't we say that he has the ability to be made for her Naziros? The Gemara continues, Lav mishum de kivan de kaimai. Isn't it because we say that once he was mekayim her neder, so he was mekayim it, and that's it, he can't do anything about it? So Gemara says, that's not a raya, because Sarva, the Tana that Mishnah holds, kol va'ani, anytime the person says va'ani, and that's it, he doesn't add anything afterwards, command amar kaim lichil ilam dami. It's as if he's telling her, I'm mekayim this neder for you forever, and then obviously he can't be made for it. But it's very possible that if he made his va'ani conditional, and he said something afterwards, maybe he would be able to be made for her Naziros. So we have no raya for our question from this Mishnah. And now moving on to another Mishnah, we already brought this Mishnah 2 daf ago. The Mishnah says, Mesa Av, if the father died, his rishos, his ability to be mefer nedarim, doesn't get emptied, meaning it doesn't get transferred to her husband, to her aros. This is referring to a situation where she's an arusa, so both her father and her aros have to jointly be mefer her nedarim, and if her father dies while she's an arusa, her husband is unable to be mefer nedarim. However, Meis Habal, if her husband dies, nisroik rishos la'av, that rishos, that ability to mefer nedarim gets transferred back to the father, and the father is able to be mefer nedarim. And bazeh yafa koyach av mikoyach habal, this is something that the father has a stronger koyach in more than the husband. And the Mishnah continues, b'davar acher yafa koyach habal mikoyach av, there's something else that the husband has a greater koyach than the father. Shahabal mefer beger, the husband is able to mefer her nedarim even if she's a bageres. V'al avein mefer beger, a father is not able to mefer her nedarim if she's a bageres. Once his daughter becomes a bageres, he's not to be mefer her nedarim anymore. And the Gemara asks, my time, why is that so? Damar Kra, because the pasuk says, bin ureha beis aviha, in her state of nairus in her father's house, he's only able to be made for her nedarim when she's a naira. But once she becomes a bageres, her father is not able to be made for her nedarim anymore. And the Mishnah had said, Meis habal nisroik nurishus la'av, if the husband dies, meaning her aros dies, that rishus gets transferred back to the father, and the father is able to be made for her nedarim on his own. The Gemara asks, and how do we know that? So Rabbi says, Damar Kra, because the pasuk tells us, Vim hayotia leish undereha aleha. And in this pasuk we have a double lashon, Vim hayotia. So we understand this is talking about two different times where she's accepting kiddushin as a naira. I know based on top. Makesh koidme havaya shniya lekoidme havaya rishayna. We compare her status before her second kiddushin to her status before her first kiddushin. Ma koidme havaya rishayna av mefer l'chudei. Just like before she accepts her first kiddushin, her father is able to mefer her nedarim on his own. Av koidme havaya shniya. So too when she's before her second kiddushin, because her first aros died, she goes back to her father's house. She hasn't accepted kiddushin from a second person yet. So av mefer l'chudei, the father is able to mefer her nedarim on his own. The Gemara asks, maybe that's only talking about nedarim that the aros never had the ability to be mefer, meaning nedarim that she made after she already went back to her father's rishos. Maybe in regards to nedarim that the aros technically was able to be mefer because she made them when she was an arusa. Now that she's back in her father's rishos, maybe her father is not able to be mefer those nedarim. So Gemara says, no, even nedarim shaloy niru la'aros, if you want to say that we're talking about nedarim that were never niru la'aros, they were never fitting for the aros to be mefer, mi bin urea besavia nafka. That's learned from the pasuk of bin urea besavia. That pasuk already tells us that when she's completely in her father's rishos, her father is able to be mefer nedarim. So it must be this pasuk of Evim hayotia is talking about nedarim that she had made when she was in arusa, and now she went back to her father's rishos, her father is able to be made for them. And the Mishnah said, and the Mishnah continued by saying that there is something that the Baal has over the father. The Baal is able to make for her nedarim when she's a bageres, whereas the father is not able to make for her nedarim when she's a bageres. The Gemara says, what's the case where a husband is able to make for her nedarim as a bageres? Even if you want to say shekichik she naira ubagra, then we're talking about a scenario that he was mekadesh when she was a naira, and then she became a bageres. Mechti, well, let's see. Misa maitzia ubagros maitzia merishas av. When her father dies, so now she's out of her father's rishos, and when she becomes a bageres, she also leaves her father's rishos. Ma misa lenisrek rishos labal. Just like when her father dies, that rishos, that permission, that ability to make for nedarim does not get transferred to the husband. So av bagros lenisrek rishos labal. So too, when she becomes a bageres, that rishos shouldn't get transferred to the husband. The Gemara says, or rather, it must be shekitchak shehi bageres. He was mekadesh her as a bageres, and then she made a neder, so he's able to be made for that neder. Ask the Gemara, what does our Mishnah need to teach us that for? Hatanina chadazimna. We already learned that in another Mishnah in Ayin Gimel. What does Mishnah say? Habageres sheshasa yud beis chaydesh. A bageres, they got engaged, and she waited 12 months, meaning there was a 12-month period in between the engagement and them getting married. So Rabbi Eliezer tells us that the husband's able to be made for a nedarim. So I think Mar just digresses for a moment to address the lashon of that Mishnah. Hagufa kasha, it itself is problematic. Amrit, you had said habageres sheshasa shneimasa chaydesh. A bageres that waited 12 months. Now one of the halachas that we learn over there is that if there's a certain amount of time that had passed in between Erusin and Nisuin, the husband is chayav to support her. So the Gemara asks, why would a bageres need 12 months? Bageres b'lamid yom sagila. It's sufficient to have 30 days in between Erusin and Nisuin for the husband to be chayav if we're talking about bageres. So the Gemara says, you're right, let's answer up for that Mishnah. Tani, really what the Mishnah should teach is bageres v'sheshasa yud beis chaydesh, a bageres, or a woman that waited 12 months. Now the Gemara concludes, Mikol Makam Kasha, either which way we have a question. Why is it that our Mishnah needs to teach us that a husband is able to be made for his wife's nedarim if she's a bageres, if we already learned that from the Mishnah over there? So the Gemara provides us with two answers. Iba is ema, hacha dafka, over here is the main halacha, ubageres katani hasam. The only reason why the Mishnah over there mentions bageres is mishum debaye fluge Rabbi Lezer Rabbanon. That's because we need to have machlekes between Rabbi Lezer and Rabbanon like we have over over there. So really, our Mishnah is the Iker, and Iway same. Alternatively, we could say by Geras Dafka that Mishnah is the Iker halacha, and our Mishnah is really the extra one. So why do we have to mention it in our Mishnah? Va'adi dinasiv Reisha bazeh, since the Reisha of our Mishnah, meaning the previous halacha in the Mishnah, had mentioned that we have something that the father is stronger than the husband in Nasiv Seifa Nami bazeh. The Seifa also mentions something that the husband is stronger than the father in, but we don't really need to mention that halacha because we already have it in the Mishnah in Ayin Gimel. We just mentioned it to see both of them in the same Mishnah. The father is stronger than the husband in one thing, and the husband is stronger than the father in another thing. We're going to stop here for the day, pick up tomorrow with a brand new Mishnah. For now, everyone should have a wonderful day.
Someone just checking in. Reload that.